Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Wednesday, hump day, one and all. It's May 7th, 2025. Hope you're doing amazing. We're going to jump right into this thing right here so I can try to get in as much time as possible. I don't know, I'm feeling kind of guided to, I actually forgot that I was thoughtful to use my Game of Thrones cards the next time I jumped on, but we'll see how the message goes. You know, maybe I'll pull a couple, but usually those cards are like all consuming. And depending on how captivated I get into this message, it just might be too much. So if I don't get to it today, then I'll try to remember for next time to use the Game of Thrones cards just to, like, you know, switch it up a little bit, if you feel me. All right, let me move up a bit. All right, so here we go. Wow, the Emperor today. Okay. Somebody's whistling. The Emperor. Oh my gosh. Oh. And the Devil. So this is someone that is abusive with their power. This is someone that uses their position to manipulate. What's that? Ooh, not the Hierophant. I'm sorry, the Hermit. But I'm sure I didn't say that for no reason. But this is the Hermit, so that, to be fair, and it would open up this way more because it was at the bottom. So, oh, what's that? 10 of Swords. Okay. All right. I'm trying to move on here. But the cards are talking. So, yeah. So this is just either an extremely corrupt leader or a corrupt organization, but it's given more emphasis to a position of power and influence that has done a great deal of damage. Like somebody that's done a lot of damage with their I don't know, I don't want to keep saying with their power. What's another word? Because the 10 of Wands, the 10 of Swords, this is, like I said, this is like devastation here that may have happened at the hand of someone that had authority to inflict it and whose power often went unchecked. You know, like somebody that felt like they were bigger than the law or bigger than justice, above the law, above justice, above maybe even beyond any authority, including a divine one in this case. And in that frequency, you're inadvertently pledging your allegiance to a dark force because it's like this assumption that nothing really matters but what you desire, what you wish to create, or what affects you directly. Even it could even be something so simple as that, like a leader that's just extremely neglectful and that lacks compassion, totally no sympathy or empathy whatsoever. But a step further than that with the devil card here is that they intentionally cause harm. Because there's one thing to kind of be an absent-minded or just like, what do we call it, apathetic leader. There's another thing to be a sinister one. Maybe even someone that aspired to a certain position of authority just to have the dominance and control over a certain group or just over anyone that they more or less deemed as less than them. And in this case, it seems like this is an energy that doesn't really have much respect for anyone, even perhaps those that may even be their peers, quote unquote. You know, like it's, I don't know, it's just giving real diabolical right here. Like somebody that certainly doesn't have respect for anyone that they view as less than them or less fortunate, less whatever, fill in the blank, you know, weak, poor, may even see emotions or compassion or harmony, fairness, all that type of stuff. This is a dictator, pretty much. A dictator that's only really concerned with, again, dominance and control that ultimately benefits their best interest and not at all considerate of any casualty of that motivation. They'll step on anybody, stab anybody in the back, could care less about really the richest or the poorest in their court, so to speak. You know, could even be a boss, you know, a CEO, head of some type of company that is only consumed with getting richer, you know, or acquiring more. I'm seeing like an image of somebody that that like buys up companies that are, you know, like that are in distress, and it'll completely like dismantle it, you know, like no regard for the people that had a livelihood through those operations before them. You know, it's like whatever, cutting the fat in the corners wherever they can, like completely dissecting it, stripping it for parts, you know, whatever, only taking what is absolutely viable to them with no regard for anything else, anything or anyone. And I feel like, you know, someone's ways are just catching up with them. Either they have or they're about to. It's like somebody's having to finally, maybe they're having such a devastating decline that they, like a rock bottom, that they have no choice but to examine themselves. Like self-awareness is coming on the end of tragedy for someone, or devastation. Probably being finally being subject to the pain and misfortune that they've caused others. And also having to answer to some type of karmic debt or demonic agreements here within self, or perhaps forged outside of themselves, but there's a debt here to be paid for sure. And it's like the bill collector right here. And this is like it's a more righteous energy though than the devil, which is to me speaking to the fact that the terms in which someone may have bound themselves to agreements that in fact may not have been upright or fair, or maybe even legal, are somehow being, what's the right word? Like they're being, it's like they have to be honored, you know? How can I say that better? Because I've said it before that sometimes with like karmic contracts and demonic attachments and things like that, like a lot of times you have more control over breaching that contract or making it null and void than what you're aware of, especially like when you're in the darkest clutch of it. You know, sometimes you feel like you could never get out of a thing, like you owe too much, or you've done too much, or you can't come clean or be honest because you have too much to lose. So it almost gives this it perpetuates this illusion that you're stuck, you're bound, like how they're chained to this entity here. Like you're stuck, you're bound, there's no way out, you have to fulfill some ultimately unreasonable agreement in order to ever see your way out. If ever, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing, like the sacrifice to release yourself seems so much greater than what you can handle in a certain light and perspective, you know, especially when you're when you're in agreement with the limited, let's see, like the limits that are implied through the terms, you know, whatever they may be. Could be fear, could be shame, insecurity, guilt, those are the heavy hitter ones, quite honestly. But anyway, so what I'm saying is like this Hermit card is, it kind of is shining a light on, so in the highest frequency, it could be shining a light on the truth of the matter, as I just kind of said, about what is actually binding and what is not. However, the thing about the Hermit is that it's a guide. It's not a force. It's a guiding light. So if you're not willing, and God forbid able, because you're so, you know, incapacitated or stuck in the dark, or delusional, maybe still bound by pride and ego and everything else that can keep you blind, then you'll miss your opportunity to see your way out of that tunnel of darkness, which could be the only way out in such a circumstance, like as this, where something is definitely over and it's come to a jolting halt or a crash. And there's been a lot of damage that has been done. And it's like there being a lot of damage done and that there's still retribution owed. So it's like having a car wreck, but you still, like, you're underwater on the car. I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but you can't just write it off, you know what I mean, and like total it out and then just go get the same car you got, or go get, something comparable. Like, you may be able to get you something else to get around in, but it won't be what you had, you know what I mean, because maybe there was still so much owed on the car or something like that, where like the debt kind of has somebody underwater. So even though they're like at a total loss, it's almost impossible to recoup to like to recuperate to like a fair, I don't know how to say this, like a fair balance, or like an even kill, or like, I don't really know how to express that, because the loss, the casualty is just maybe the casualties on account of someone's position and mismanagement of their power are just too great at this point. So it's like, whereas you may be able to see your way out of some things that are illusional, or maybe even a figment of your own delusion. Speaking of this energy, not you, but speaking about this energy, there's some things that somebody's just got to face. They just have to pay. There just has to be retribution. There has to be justice. Even with the greatest guide, the greatest ancestors, way sure as if Jesus Christ himself came down and took somebody by the hand, there would still be some things that they would just have to pay for because of the energy that was expelled unjustifiably. Damn, that's deep. And this could even be a blockage, of why someone can't get to the light, because there's still some attachments that they're gripping onto, maybe addictions, maybe obsessions, maybe allowing themselves to still be possessed in some dark fashion that's keeping them from seeing their only way to some relief. What's true is that there can be no return to the glory days of their power and position. That's over with the Ten of Swords, and the ending isn't or wasn't pretty, and it's final, very, very final. So the only way through to that light at the end of the tunnel is for somebody to face their demons. Talking about a dark night of the soul, this is the darkest. Facing every single thing that they may have inflicted onto someone else, and also even unto themselves, like all of that being a blockage here, like almost a cage or a captivation, just chains, you know. And again, it's something righteous about it, even in the ways where someone could claim that they were tricked or duped or misled, misguided, misinformed, because that's what this energy does. It's, you know, that's what it does. It's deceptive. Definitely distractive. Is that a word? Distracting. And it would be, you know, it would be fair to make those claims, but there's still something about it that someone should have known better enough to have navigated their way around these distractions, these pitfalls, these temptations, or they should have known better to call in divine support and reinforcement, or they should have known better, and by experience with the Emperor card here, to quit while they were ahead, which would have meant somebody stopping their behavior or whatever it was that they were doing a long time ago to get to the Emperor status. And you in this deep shit, that means it's somebody that's been carrying on diabolically for years, decades, lifetimes, just allowing themselves to get darker and darker. And there's a wonder that there's any glimmer of hope or light at all, which is just a testament to how graceful and gracious the divine truly is, that there's still you know, a summoning here to someone, for someone to get to their true self, you know, to go within and seek truth, seek light, perhaps seek love. But they got a long, dark corridor to travel through to get there, and great obstacles to face along the way on account of their own actions. It's like, you know, it didn't necessarily have to be this way, but this is the road, this is pretty much the path that somebody paved for themselves by way of their personal choices to prioritize power and lust, greed, control, arrogance, pride, like every pitfall that one can be warned to avoid in this life is like somebody just gorged on all of it, because it didn't really make them sick, you know, or put them in a disadvantage for a long time, until all at once it seems that it's finally come to a head. All right, I'm gonna start over. Let's get some fresh energy here. It's like somebody's living their worst nightmare. And they, wow, the Lovers and the Sun. And they never expected to. The Lovers, the Sun, the Two of Pentacles, Three of Pentacles. Well, that's a change of energy. I like that. Let's see what we got here. On account of their choices, though, that's the Lovers card. And those and what's being illuminated, what really stings, you know, for someone in a position such as that, is being clear enough to see the choice that would have put you in a better position. You know, I won't say that you should have made, because it is what it is. And some people are just born and bred to learn the hard way. You know, it just is what it is. But that Lovers card and the Sun particularly sticks out to me as really illuminating the better option, or the more viable option, and maybe someone reflecting or even being privy to like a psychic reflection in some way, shape, or form, that, you know, like almost like a flashback, like this could have been your life. You know, if you would have chosen this way, then this is how this is how life could have panned out up until this point. You know what I mean? Or somebody could just be reflecting on that on their own, considering where they are now. Just thoughtful, maybe even a bit obsessive, I would say, about what could have been if they had done something different or changed something in the past, made different choices, chosen to be the best of themselves instead of the worst of themselves, you know, chose to appreciate life and creation overall, and not to manipulate it, you know. So, I don't know. 5, this is competition, maybe a disagreement. Let's see, about what? I don't know what that was. Popped in and out. Direction. And maybe even some internal conflict about which way to go now in a new direction, and feeling quite vulnerable about that pathway at this point, like somebody feeling like they're starting over, like starting at 1. Oh, what was that? 2 for 1 with the 3 of Wands and the Magician card here. They're looking for a miracle. Looking for like some type of serendipitous escape is what I'm hearing. To be able to create one for themselves, perhaps again, because they have in the past, you know, like for there to be some like Hail Mary or last ditch rescue team, you know what I mean? Or like I said, like last minute escape that they're able to find, they're able to catch or attract, I would say, maybe conjure even, like a way out of no way. So, and quite mystically, it could just be someone really either looking for the return result on some work they already put out, some intentions they put out to make a great escape from their consequences, from their karma, from this debt that they've incurred. Let's see. Let me get one more on this. Or they're actively working toward that escape. To what avail? Let's see. Six of Wands here. They're waiting for a Calvary. That's what I'm hearing. But no lie, like they're trying to manifest a Calvary with this, like here comes the Calvary, the Savior, but I'm laughing because it's like somebody's waiting here on the shore for this arrival, but it's given that this is like an SOS, you know what I mean? Like I was seeing a Hail Mary, like a SOS, but it's given that like somebody is really passing it by. And even, yeah, exactly, because here's the Five of Wands, and this is the Six of Wands. The Five of Wands energy is on the ground behind this person on this horse who's in motion, actively moving on. So what they're waiting for, what they're conjuring, what they're hoping to manifest, I'm gonna get one more on this pile, but usually I would see the Six of Wands as like a positive card, but I didn't feel that off the bat, like, oh, okay, success, victory, you did it. It just feels like whatever they're waiting for is not coming to them. It's off. This Calvary mission is going somewhere else. Ooh, that was the Hangman. Yeah, they're going to be waiting. They're going to be waiting. Because what they seek is already inside of them. Yeah, like, this is this energy is off on some other mission somewhere else. Or it's just like this level of grace and security is like reserved for fresh new beginnings, not necessarily for folks that are just looking to be saved from their misfortune so that they could just get back to what they were doing before that. Like, as I say, get back to business as usual. This is for people that are really looking to, that are really intentional about starting a new path, a new journey, being new, seeing with fresh eyes, walking in faith, releasing old baggage. Like, this is not for somebody that still wants to carry their addictions and their bad habits and their diabolical ways. They just want new breath and new life to be able to activate in a new opportunity. Like if now knowing better than they did before, that energy that we started with is an energy like they just want an opportunity to do it better than they did. Like a second chance to get over again. but they don't really, to manipulate energy, you know, manipulate opportunity, but not to really do something useful and valuable with it, at least not yet. You know, that's just what I'm feeling, because here's the conflict right here. You know, like there's still inner conflict about how to actually start over, and maybe even how to even accept the fate of starting from the beginning without prejudice. And one thing's for sure is that it's inevitable. It's what has to be. But like I was saying before, the way that it's like somebody like pleading out or crying out like, okay, I learned my lesson, I got it now, you know, like save me. I can do better with my time, with my money, with my energy. If you put me in position again, I promise I won't let you down this time. But it's like, you ain't learned nothing. How could you have? You couldn't have learned much. Not yet. So there's that. I don't know if you picking up what I'm putting down with that, but that's what I feel and that's what I see. So I'm not gonna try. Yeah, look at exactly. You ain't learned nothing. And the divine knows best. The divine knows our hearts, our intentions. It knows. Even as sometimes it yields to our protests and our pleads, you know, our pleas to be so-called saved from ourselves, only to end up falling victim to ourselves again in some cases. But like I said, this is deeper than that. This is not just about what someone did to themselves. This is about someone taking an unjustified liberty over others' will, others' creativity, others, you know, I don't even know. With the Seven of Swords here, it could be their bodies, their minds, their resources. Like I said, there were no boundaries with this person. There was nothing that was off limits that they wouldn't do to satisfy their own lusty desires in one way, shape, or form. And that cannot just be grazed over like, oh, okay, you didn't know no better. Here you go. Because in fact, somebody did know better and they should have done better. So now you don't get to plead, I'm only human, I make mistakes, or you don't get to blame shift it on anybody, because this is someone that more or less has been judged to have been to more or less have been cognizant, I guess, enough to make different choices. Or maybe conscious, maybe cognizant is too strong. And this is what they chose every single time. It even could be somebody that was given hella chances to regenerate. And even in the ways in which they kept more or less getting away with what they were doing over and over again, that in itself is an opportunity to shift, especially when you see the consequence or the impression, the influence that it makes on others, how it may leave other people in bad positions. But this is somebody that saw that and still was like, nah, I gotta have it my way, you know, like I'm sorry for you, but maybe not even that much compassion, because that might be too much. But just know, like, heartless heartless and greedy. So like I said, like this is somebody that's out of options, out of choices. The only way out is in for this person. There is no rescue mission that's coming to pull someone out of the mess that they've created for themselves this time. There's no ram in the bush, you know, so to speak, that's coming to save someone. Like they're going to have to eat this sacrifice themselves this time. All right, let me hurry up because I like that I've been under an hour. Last couple messages. Oh, look at somebody. Yeah, they're trying to escape, and also like this is exactly the energy that I'm talking about. Like almost trying to pull one over on the divine. I swear I'm a changed man this time. Like fingers crossed behind their back. You know, like you can't lie to the divine. Trying to claim some nuance of self-control. Reconditioning of self-control, of, you know, self-awareness, of harmony, like seeing the error of their ways suddenly. They don't. If they're lucky, they will. If they let the divine do what it does, you know, and process them into transformation really and truly, but they don't yet. They would only continue to be a danger to themselves and to others. Yeah, look, it's like the angel, like, nope, I ain't trying to hear that. Or I don't see it, you know, like I don't see it for you, buddy. I really don't. Yeah, this is, damn. This is like somebody really trying to petition the divine for some type of second chance, or they're claiming repentance is what I'm feeling and hearing. But like how I was saying earlier, there's like a block. It's like their prayers are not even I can't say they're not being heard, but they're damn sure not being answered. Not what they're asking for. That's deep. One more. It's like that channel is completely blocked. Yeah, look. This is the petition here with the Page of Wands, just looking for a way out, a way over, a way in, any way, you know what I mean? And to me it is communication in this regard, but it's given Page of Swords, which we know is a small offering of energy, expression of energy in the grand scheme of things. So there could be a small part of someone that really does wish to transform for the sake of survival, or project a desire to do so. But like I said, like they don't even really know what they're asking for, because the divine is like, oh, you gonna get your chance. You gonna get it. But it's just not the way you think or the way you would hope for. It's not coming as some like absolution of everything that has been done up until this point for you to literally start with a clean slate like nothing happened. No, it's going to be a process, you know, but will you be willing and able to endure? Literally like a student is the page. I guess that remains to be seen for some, but let's get two more at the end and I'm gonna close it out. I'm doing good. I'm doing great. trick these angels out here. You can't trick these angels. No way, Jose. Yeah, somebody now now here is some connection to compassion, some emotional intelligence, perhaps. Maybe that is the objective for someone to find their way, which makes sense, you know, to find their way to this refined expression of emotionality, again, compassion, kindness, empathy, sympathy, grace, love, for God's sakes, is the King of Cups. To find their way to, like I said, some gotta learn the hard way. Some take the scenic route. But perhaps that is the main objective, or like the end result here for whomever can endure this path of becoming, transforming, reconditioning, repenting. One more. And repenting just simply means turning away from your old ways, you know, doing something different, seeing a new way, a new path, a new way of being, a new way of perceiving life, new identity, you know, making new choices when you're recognizing that the old ones don't yield what you do, you know, what's most desirable in a organic sense, you know. And that's why there's a there's a need for a process of transformation here, where it can't just be like, oh, I learned my lesson, you know, I can move on. Because this is calling for someone to actually find that resonance of love within them first. They either haven't had it for a long time, or it's been corroded and corrupted to the point of, I don't know, poison. I don't know, like whatever, something that is not viable, or they just have suppressed it for so long that they've lost touch with that aspect of themselves. And that can happen for many different ways, back to what I was saying before, as to why someone might have valid excuses as to why they are the way that they are. But when it comes down to it, we still hold personal responsibility for what that yields. And when you see the evidence of what it yields, what it harvests, then you are accountable for how you respond and react accordingly. So this is someone that has to be reintroduced or reconnected, perhaps, with that frequency of love within them that they've either turned off or poured out, you know, if that's possible. Well, I guess it has to be possible if we're talking about it, but if someone is willing. Oh, that was almost a, oh, that was a high priestess. I thought it was something else. Yeah, take that compassionate route in spirituality, divinity, like to almost nurture and mother yourself. Wow, yeah, surrender. That's the surrendering right there. To finally come to terms with the fact that there's no fight out of this. is for energy such as this, it's either like you can just give up on life and lay down and, you know, give up the ghost, more or less, you know, like kind of just, I don't know, you know, I don't know how, I'm trying to find a nice way to say it, but like you can either give up or give in, I guess is the best way to put it. Yeah, and I'm gonna leave it at that because that resonates for whomever it does. And most people that are listening probably don't even really need that message. So this is about some of the energies that are still fighting transformation tooth and nail, fighting against the sign of the times, the change of the era, the new wave of life, the transition from old world to new, and of course who they get to be in that reality, on account of really acknowledging and accepting who they've been up until this point, which is the hardest part of it all, you know, to really face that energy. Not because people haven't been pleased with themselves, because obviously they were when it was beneficial, but now it's like looking at yourself through new eyes, realizing that whatever identity of yourself that has, you know, that has carried you thus far in such a way up until this point is obviously not sufficient for whatever is now and whatever is next. That's a hard pill to swallow when you've been just going along to get along as who you've been all this time, and it's actually been profitable, you know, or beneficial in some way. You know, it's hard to really surrender to a new way of being and doing life and having life, especially in a way that's really not all that comfortable and is so contrary to who you have conditioned yourself or allowed yourself to be conditioned to be. So I guess the point is just knowing that this energy is out there. It's in some ways is still floundering to find, you know, to get its head above water. It's still grasping for straws, maybe grasping for energies of the light and of a certain level of security and stability and confidence to kind of latch on to validate itself or to regenerate itself. You know, so for those that don't resonate with the lower frequency of this, it's more important to just be conscious enough to guard your energy and your essence, to not allow yourself to be taken advantage of anymore, to be duped by people and places and things that pose themselves to be of high value, that, you know, or to pose themselves to add value, as a matter of fact, you know, but really are looking to gain value from what you have to offer, or to, I guess I should say, to monopolize on your value or manipulate it still, because for those that are still open to the efforts of manipulation that we saw in the beginning with the corrupted emperor, more or less, you can still get got, you know, like nobody is exempt really. If you are, it's like a vampire, you know, this is real, like, of course, fantastical, as I say, but you have to invite them in. But if you invite them in, then you're just as much responsible for what for how you're attacked as they are for attacking you, you know. So it definitely still stands to 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 maintain healthy boundaries. Keep your eyes peeled in the physical sense. Keep your eye open in the spiritual sense, and not to second guess what you discern in the spirit, good, bad, or indifferent. Because all walks of life are on the prowl at this time. It's all out there, whatever you can possibly think of to encounter. Yeah, and this is that, like I said, is that energy of holding on and holding back. In some ways, it's not even so sinister as people that are like looking to suck your blood. Maybe it is, but it just really could be people trying to hold on to what they have, in scarcity, in a sense, because the card doesn't project that, generally, but in terms of what I'm talking about. Somebody trying to kind of conserve all their energy, keep it on the back burner or in the back pocket, hoard it almost, but still glean from whatever they can get outside of themselves, almost packing it in. And you don't even realize like what you may be given freely, generously, graciously, is being offered to a source, or to a force that is not meaning to do well with it. Case in point, that Calvary that somebody's waiting on might be you. Somebody might be waiting for you to save the day, bringing your beautiful, optimistic light and energy to the party in whatever capacity that is, to the relationship, to the friend group, to the project, to the company, so that they can absorb as much of it as they possibly can, leave you high and dry, and still have a little bit of their own to rely on as well, yours and theirs, So that's what I'm talking about here. Like, it doesn't even have to be so mystical, but it is a little bit of that, and it is a little bit of just practical human behavior, I'll say more carnal human behavior, that are just desperate to survive in these times that seem disparaging, so yeah. And like I said, this is that energy of, like, for me, sometimes the Page of Cups can be a little bit needy, like they seem like they're offering a cup or have something to offer, but it's a fish in that cup. So what they have in their own regard is a bit distorted or tainted, which brings back the point of why some people are looking to fill themselves up on something that's more pure, something that's untainted, organic, and in ways, from posing themselves to be generous in their own right, to provoke that exchange, that spiritual exchange of someone, and even to present themselves to be vulnerable and unassuming and harmless, and a little bit dependent, I would say, in need, when the inflection here is that he's got plenty, really, in the right perception. The Four of Pentacles is more than enough to be self-sufficient and secure, but not everybody has a perspective of prosperity. You could have even less than somebody with the Four of Pentacles and still feel safe and secure and stable, so we could be talking about a deficit of emotional stability here, or psychological stability. And there really is no cure for that except for divine devotion unto self. Back again to that Hermit card, someone being able to really search their own soul for resources and solutions, and submit themselves to divine the divine source to supplement their deficit. You know, not deficit, what's the right word? You get what I'm saying. This deficiency, there it is. But it won't likely come from you in a high vibration. Not in the ways that some are looking to glean it. The best anyone can really do for anyone else at this time is just to be self-contained and to really take care of yourself in a way that is honorable. And by taking care, that doesn't mean not caring about anyone else, but taking care of your own affairs, your own wellness, and making sure that that intention carries on to those that you do affect outside of yourself. You know, having the highest intention for that, and certainly not having any ill-fated intentions, you know, and to carry on that honor and that energy of, I'm trying to find a word to explain, to say it, what's the word? Example is what I'm really trying to say. Like to be that living example, ultimately, of what it looks like to live in love in your own simple way. That helps the conscious, creative, conscious collective, and even the unconscious collective in ways that they don't even know, more than anything that you could do that would be like constructively, even intrusively hands-on. You know, so anyway, those that are already doing that, once again, I'm preaching to the choir. Those that are not, the invitation is always open as long as you have breath in your body, and the divine will fill the gaps as it sees fit in that void. So yeah, I guess I'll leave it there. Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with